on? Play Gaming here, back with another Epic 7 video, and today we're going over the balance adjustment preview for June 9th. This one is going to be a pretty spicy one. I think overall, I got a chance to look at it before recording the video, and the units actually look pretty decent. Like the buffs look pretty good. So DJB is going to be the #1 unit that I think is going to benefit the most from these buffs. He does seem kind of broken on paper. We gotta wait and see. Haste is getting off the bench potentially with a non-counterable skill, which again can make him a bit spicy. Choux, my girl Choux, and Alencia might be back, so the Bruiser meta is potentially back. Wanderer Silk is getting some speed. Momo, Best Girl, is getting some buff. So here we go, starting off with DJB, Desert Jewel Basar. Before he really didn't do much. Now in RTA, people tried him out after the +15 speed increase to Soul Weavers. People were easily hitting like 300 speed Desert Jewel Basar, which is kind of crazy. But now I think that build is gonna be more viable. So his Desert Wind, which I believe is his S1, it still has a chance to stun, but it recovers health of all allies, and the amount recovered increases proportional to the target's max health and the caster's attack. So his healing is decreased, so there is that, but the soul burn now is going to increase the amount that is recovered. So every time he S1s, he heals everybody, right? Recovers everyone. So that's built in. Before, you had to soul burn, and then that soul burn would attack. It was an AoE that would heal everybody. He is getting a complete removal of his passive and is actually getting an S2 skill now. His S2 is Desert Storm. With a Sandstorm, inflicts barrier inversion on all enemies and has a 85% chance to decrease hit chance for 2 turns. When the target is granted a barrier, grant an extra turn to the caster. So this one, barrier inversion, does seem really strong for some reason, because it's an AoE, right? It's an AoE. I'm thinking mainly FCC, right? Barrier inversion inverts barrier into straight damage. So if FCC is giving a 5k barrier to the entire team, then everybody is getting dealt 5k true damage, I'm assuming. It's unaffected by effect res and whether the attack hits and applies to heroes only. So I think this could potentially one-shot like very squishy units, right? I think this also indirectly counters, units that can't be like killed turn 1, like mainly Spirit Isoline with barrier, right? Because she's gonna take 5 to 8k damage just from the barrier, and then you just S1 her and she's gone, right? T-Surin, forget about T-Surin, okay? She's been out of the meta, unfortunately, for a very long time. Skill enhancement is now the effect chance to land the blind and the -1 turn cooldown. It is acquiring some souls. His Bastet Roar, which is the S3, dispels all debuffs and grants immunity for 2 turns. So it used to be 3 turns, now it's 2 turns. So they did reduce how long you have immunity for now, which I think is fine, but that barrier inversion does seem really strong. And FCC's been around for a very long time. I think she's a unit that isn't overpowered. She just can sit there though and provide mitigation. I mean, she's a knight. For being an ML, right? She's not as overpowered as all of the other ones seem to be recently. DJB kind of countering her, it's gonna be rough. It's gonna be rough, but I think that S2 potentially is gonna be insane. Moving on to Haste. He is getting a 75% chance to steal 1 buff, I believe, on his S1. They're removing all the earth elemental attributes. So all the conditions, him having to be hitting an earth elemental unit, that's no longer there. And the same thing with his Vampiric Seal. This attacks all enemies, dispelling 2 buffs. So he has almost a full strip, right? 2 buff strip, and a 100% chance to inflict bleeding for 2 turns. If he crits, he has an 85% chance to decrease defense for 2 turns. So he has an AoE strip, AoE bleed. He has a AoE defense break on an 85% chance. But that's still pretty insane. And then on top of that, that skill cannot trigger a counterattack. So you just can't be countered when you do that. That's kind of crazy. So you full strip, AoE defense break, and then you just cleave. So Haste, calling it now, is going to be, I would say, another unit added to the cleave arsenal for openers, right? When you don't have Ren, easy, just build Haste. He has 120 base speed. Just to give you kind of a comparison, Conquer Lilith has a 121 base speed, and you see her build 290, 300 speed, right? So I'm sure Haste can hit that 300 mark if you have, like, 20 plus speeders on your gear. 300 easy, right? So don't be surprised if you see Haste, 300 speed Haste running around, because they're gonna full strip you and AoE defense break you, and they can't get countered. So there is that. Choux is getting some, I think, pretty okay buffs. Her S1, which is a chop, Soulburn now gives her an extra turn. Her Foosh, I think this is now gonna be definitely viable to one-shot. It almost one-shotted before. And, I have her plus 15. I really liked her kit, and her style, is pretty cool. But she now absorbs some of the damage she deals on Foosh as health. Before, the health that she would absorb was almost nothing. Now she penetrates an extra 20% of the enemy's defense, so it's a 70% def pen. So when you attack with the Foosh, she's going to absorb some of that damage as health and penetrate 70% of their defense. When she has 5 focus, she's going to increase the damage that she deals, and they're also increasing or decreasing the damage dealt on the Foosh. So she's getting def pen, more damage added on, and they're reducing the amount of damage, because it used to come from the Soulburn. So you would have to Soulburn to almost guarantee that you one shot. Even then, you still wouldn't do enough damage. So hopefully that def pen helps. But what I'm really excited about is the Help Me Cream, right? Where she summons her cream, and they just clap everybody out of existence. So this one, it freezes all enemies. So it's an AoE attacking skill. It increases crit resistance of all allies for 2 turns and grants the caster immunity for 2 turns. Damage dealt increases proportional to the caster's max health. So she AoEs, gives everybody crit hit resistance, and gives herself immunity for 2 turns. But now, when this skill is not available, she gets a 20% chance to counterattack. So she has a built-in Sigurd almost, and a built-in Elbrus Ritual Sword, right? So now every time that an ally, except for the caster, is attacked, she has a 20% chance to counter. So my current build on her is counter def pen. I think that's still 100% viable, because if she gets attacked, she has a chance to counter on counter set, right? If an enemy hits one of your friends, there's a chance to counter. So there is that. So I think that she can potentially be really good now into fire units. But I mean, what that's kind of the issue, right? What fire units are you going to bring her up against? Ravi? Maybe like as anti-cleave with, when you're getting cleave with Firehand guy? I don't know. It's, as much as I like Choux, these buffs, although do seem insane, I'm not sure where I would bring her, right? Because you have to bring her against fire units. So I don't know. We'll see. But she has the potential to deal some serious damage. Alencia is getting some buffs as well. Mainly, finally, to her Mind's Eye. She's getting a 100% chance to proc the Mind's Eye. Finally. I don't know why they did, even with the EE, that it didn't happen, right? But now at the start of the turn, she's getting a 100% chance to get Mind's Eye for 1 turn. And then once she uses Eradicate, when the caster is granted Mind's Eye, she actually inflicts injury now, and the severity of injuries increases proportional to the damage dealt. Injuries decrease the max health of the target by up to 10% every time the skill is used. So, I mean, before it was a 50% chance, and then it would reduce the cooldown of her S3, I believe. But the biggest condition, or the biggest thing that made her, I mean, she was still very, very usable, I think, like in season 2 RTA. And I think even now she's still pretty decent in like PvE. But the biggest thing was on the caster's turn when using Mind Eye. When using Eradicate, while granted Mind's Eye, activates Trample. So now that condition is gone, right? That is no longer there. So counter build, I think, will now proc her second skill, right? So it goes from her Eradicate into the Trample now off her turn. So it means you can build her on counter, right? And so her S3 Genesis attacks all enemies with Dragon's Might, dispelling all buffs. And now she increases her own combat readiness by 50%. So I think that she definitely has counter potential now, at least. She's always going to have that Mind's Eye. And they increase the Mind's Eye effectiveness by 50%. So she has a better chance at defense breaking and potentially dealing damage. Even though they did decrease Trample's damage, I think that it's still going to make her a bit more usable, even though she isn't going to one-shot a unit, after S1, S2. I think working in injuries might be a meme, but we got to wait and see. We got to wait and see how much damage she deals. Because, like on APOC Ravi, injury is pretty good. But the thing is, she deals damage. She deals a lot of damage. So is the decreased damage here going to even do anything with injuries, right? Or is injuries really going to do anything with that decreased damage? We got to wait and see. But now her EE actually recovers her health when she uses Eradicate. Amount increase recovers to her max health. So Eradicate, I think, is going to be her bread and butter, right? Her S1. Every time she S1s, she heals. So I think if we're right on this and you can proc her S1 into S2 now, counter is going to be 100% her build from now on, because every time she counters, she's going to heal. Every time she counters, she's going to have a chance at defense break into her S2, dealing injury to the opposing player, to the opposing unit. So I think that's going to make her really, really strong. Potentially, we got to wait and see what her multipliers are with that decrease in damage. But Wanderer Silk is getting some buffs. Most of it doesn't seem that great, other than she's getting 14 speed as an imprint release. So if you're a cleaver, I think this balance adjustment is going to be really nice for you, because now you have another 14 speed imprint that you can use to contest in RTA with speed, or even in GVG, right? But I don't think that you would bring her instead of like Vajrashuri. So, I mean, still 14 speed, right? I don't necessarily think that she's going to be a lot more usable, but I mean, we'll wait and see. She is still another 4-star unit that you do have to mola. That is kind of mad, but she is kind of waifu. So hey, 14 speed, there is that. Moving on to Momo. Momo is getting some buffs, mainly to her S1. So now she has a 50% chance to sleep for 1 turn, and she's getting some built-in mitigation as well. And so she's getting, I guess, an adjustment to her Earnest Prayer, which is her skill 3. Before, it would heal and give immunity and then remove 2 debuffs, right? And so you would never be able to heal and stuff, and just the way that it worked, it was weird. But now she cleanses first before she heals and gives immunity, which I think is huge. because there's plenty of times where you don't heal, you just cleanse, right? And your unit is still at like 2% HP. And so now hopefully that fixes that. But she is getting an adjustment to her Solitude rune. When she is attacked by an enemy that is not an elite or boss monster, damage suffered by the caster decreases by 15%. So she has a built-in damage mitigation, which is pretty cool. Honestly, I think that's something that, is definitely going to help her, especially early on. But, maybe you'll see her in RTA more. I don't know. Raz is also getting some buffs. He's getting increased healing on his S3. So when you burn, right, he's getting increased healing on that S3. The Wedge rune now has a 100% chance to grant immunity to the caster and the ally with the highest attack, except for the caster for 2 turns when using Command Strike. The Solitude rune is also going to give some type of damage mitigation, which is on single attack, single DPS, right? That's kind of like the meta right now. So after an ally in the back row suffers a single attack, damage suffered is 30% or more of max health, grant a barrier to the target for 2 turns. Barrier strength is equivalent to 40% of the caster's max health, can only be activated once per battle. So again, single target, they're getting a barrier if they're dealt 30% or more, right? Going back to Spirit Eye Celine, if she can't be one-shotted, so she's going to get that barrier, which is going to be 40% of Raz's max HP. And that's, for a one-time thing, I think it's fine, but I think it should be on a cooldown, right? Maybe every 3 turns, every 4 turns, something like that. Because right now it can only be activated once per battle. So you only get that one time and then that's it. So I think those buffs are pretty decent. He didn't not necessarily needed buffs. I think he's fine where he is, but hey, anything else is fine. We're getting some adjustments to Time Matter. It is now increasing damage by 6% when attacking. So that's just built in. Before it didn't have that. And then they are reducing the damage on the next attack. So just innately, you're getting a 6% damage boost. If you fully max it out, it's just a 12% damage boost, raw damage boost when attacking. So maybe more people will use that if they have it maxed out. It is a mage artifact, right? So I don't know, we'll see. Snow Crystal, this one is interesting because before it increased effect res, no one used it. Now it increases critical hit resistance by 20%. So I think now could be somewhat usable, right? You don't get crit. I'm sure there's a couple of different uses of this. Can't think of any right now. If you can, let me know in the comment section below. But you always want to not get crit, right? Unless you're throwing this on like MLK. Please don't throw this on MLK. But hey, we'll see. Eternus. This is a 4-star artifact. I use this in PvE, okay? Don't judge me. But now it increases combat radiance of the caster by 7% when an ally has a debuff at the end of the enemy's turn. Can only be activated once per turn. So before it was when a debuffed ally except for the caster starts their turn, and then now it's an enemy's turn. So I think this makes it more usable in just like regular adventure. But because that's where I would use it. I would use it in hunts, or no, not hunts, in expeditions. So now I think that kind of ruins my expedition for using this. I don't know. Well, I gotta wait and see. But that's it. Let me know your thoughts on this balance update. Who are you most excited about? I'm really dreading the DJB one because that invert barrier thing. That sounds pretty insane. Choux and Alencia. 100% must build counter. Death Pen is gonna be the way, I think, for those two. DJB, I think, is the winner of this one. But like always, if you haven't enjoyed the video, hit that like button. If you haven't subscribed, hey, think about subscribing. It really helps the channel grow and reach more people like you who like content like this. Like always, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.